Hey there, it's me again. Yes, me. Yes, and I'm back again with another wonderful episode to talk about concerning Miss Lady. Yes, Miss Lady. Miss Lady is something else. Miss Lady is awesome. She really is. Miss Lady has been a true blessing to my heart, to my soul, to my spirit. I enjoy talking with her. When I find myself looking for her when I don't see her on my route. I find myself looking for her just in walking because I do enjoy the conversations that we have and the talk time that we have together. It is a blessing to me, a blessing to my heart, a blessing to my soul, a blessing to my spirit. And I'm glad that she feels free enough to share these conversations with me. And talking with Miss Lady again, she told me, um, she said every once in a while there may be times when I piggyback on a particular subject, a particular thing that we talked about. And she said, I want to piggyback on some things. She said, first off, I want to let you know that there were there was the stepfather that I started out with, and then there was another stepfather later on. The stepfather that I started out with in life was a stepfather who did harm to me, who abused me. She said the other thing that I want to let you know about, this is what Miss Lady told me. She said the thing about the things that happened to me, she said I didn't have a name for them at the time. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that it wasn't right. She said what I want you to understand and what I want other people to understand, because you've told me that you've been telling my story to others, is that these things started with me before I could even get to. I was. She's. Let me backtrack. Miss Lady said these things started with me, or were happening with me when I was in Head Start. So imagine the age that you are in Head Start, and imagine experiencing these things in Head Start, and you don't even know what to call this thing. You don't even know what to tell somebody about the thing that's being done to you. You don't know what it is. You just know that it doesn't feel right, that it didn't feel right, that it made you feel a certain way and behave and act and respond in a certain way, and that it wasn't a one-time encounter, that those things went on for a while until eventually that relationship with the stepfather ended. She said the other thing is that she wanted to also let people know, or wanted people to maybe try and understand, because some people will never understand because they've never been in those shoes before and they have a different viewpoint about it, and that's okay. Miss Lady said that it wasn't until she was almost 30 years old that she even told her mother about those encounters, because she never told her about them. She never had a voice about them. Whatever her mom might have been thinking, she just never said anything about it. She said also during that time, during that era, when she was growing up, you have to remember that our parents were still operating sort of like, if you ever saw the movie The Help, she said. And she said, and what she meant by that is your mom went to work, or your mom and dad went to work if there was a two-parent home, and you were told what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and you followed those rules. So early on, you became latchkey kids. So with you becoming latchkey kids, it was a certain responsibility already put on you that you had to do in order for your mom to be able to go to work and take care of you. She said the number one thing that she wants you to understand and for you to remember is that nobody is to be trusted around your children. And I need for you all, Miss Lady said, I need for you all to stop thinking that it's always the boyfriend. It's not always the boyfriend. It's not always the girlfriend. It's not always who you might think it is. She went on to say that, let me explain something to you so that you have a better understanding. She said that if you've ever had your house broken into, and certain items came up missing, it was because that person had already been visiting your house. But if your house was broken into and things were thrown around, that was a stranger. That was somebody who didn't know what they were looking for. They were just trying to find anything. You have to quit thinking that it was the boyfriend or that it's the boyfriend, because it's not always the boyfriend. It can be the grandmother, it can be the grandfather, it could be the father, it could be the mother. Some people have different setups going on in their households, and some people are raising their children to engage in things that you think that they wouldn't be having their children engage in. Some people are raising their children to be that way. And I know that it's hard for you all to fathom, but some of the things that they're talking about on the news, some of the things that you're hearing about, they're real, Miss Lady said. So just because it has not happened at your house, just because it did not knock on your front door, doesn't mean that it is not happening. Miss Lady said, I need you to become more aware of the fact that this thing takes place more often than you think it does not. You have to watch the school teacher, male or female. You have to watch the brothers and sisters. You have to watch the sisters. You have to watch the aunts and the uncles and the cousins and all these places that you think or deem as being safe places to go to. No, they're not. If you would not let somebody else wear your underwear, feel that way about your child. If you would not let somebody else drive your car, feel that way about your child. If you would not share your toothbrush with somebody else, feel that way about your child. Stop having this one mindset frame, Miss Lady said, that it's always the boyfriend, because girlfriends, women, they do things too. It is not okay for a woman to want to sleep with a 14-year-old boy. And it is not okay for society to pat him on his back and say, hey, that's my boy. No, no, he's still a kid. He's still a child. He's still an adolescent. He is still underage. And what would a grown woman want with an underage boy? The same thing that you should be saying about what does a grown man want with a kindergartner? What does a grown man want with a 14-year-old? What does a grown man want with somebody who is nowhere near his age bracket? What does he want with them? What does she want with them? Stop thinking that, oh, she's 14, oh, he's 15, that it's okay, because it's not okay. They're still children. They're not listening to the same music that adults are listening to. They can't go into the same places that adults can go into. We're talking about adults. We're talking about 21 and maybe up. So why would you think that it is okay for a full-fledged grown person or even a teenage person to vandalize, victimize, hurt, cause harm to someone? It's not. Miss Lady wanted to go on to say as well that she mentioned something, and she realizes that it was a little misguided. 1 in 3 girls, 1 in 3. So when you count 1, 2, 3, that third person, we're going to say is it. What I mean by that, Miss Lady said, is that third young lady is most likely to be the person in the room who has been molested. The thing about being molested is that you are prone to having at least 3 molesters before the age of 18. How they know that you've already been molested, don't know. But just like you know who's not right in the room, that's probably how they know that you've already been groomed. 1 in 6 boys will be molested. Yes, 1 in 6 boys. So boy number 6 may have been molested. And his possibilities are just as unique as those possibilities. Miss Lady also went on to say any children who are handicapped, disabled, unable to speak are more at risk and more subject to having more predators than any of the other two that she mentioned. You have to watch your children. I know it is hard, Miss Lady said, being a parent and you're thinking that you're doing this right and you're doing that right and that you got all areas covered. But sometimes you don't have all areas covered. The other thing that Miss Lady wanted to explain is that just because that person never did that to you does not mean they have not done it somewhere else. Just because that person did not do that to you does not mean that they have not done that to someone else. Just because that person did not do that to you does not mean that your girlfriend is exempt. Does not mean that your son is exempt. Does not mean that your cousin was exempt. Some of them are doing shopping just like everybody else. Some of them don't want to touch the things in their household. They prefer to go outside their household. So stop thinking that because they didn't do that to you, that the other people are telling stories on them. Because the likelihood of it being a true fact, you'd be surprised. Miss Lady went on to say that she can give me an example of a situation. She said her and her mom and them, they lived in a building complex. And in the building complex that they lived in, because the little girl was familiar with how these people operate, how the predators operate, how the pedophiles operate, she realized that she was being placed in another situation with an adult, a male adult, a respected male adult in the community living inside the building complex. Respected. A married male adult living in the community, living in the apartment building. Respected. A male adult living in the apartment building, living in the community, and respected. Great things were being said about this person. Wonderful things were being said about this person to the point that it was no way possible that anything wrong could be said about this person. Well, wouldn't you know it? This person has started talking to the little girl. And in the ways that he was talking to the little girl knew what that was leading up to. The other thing that he started doing was offering the little girl money. They like to offer you money. They like to show different interest in you and hold different conversations with you as a part of what is now been found out to be called grooming. It's almost like the preparations in dating you and liking you. Almost like what you go through when you become a grown man or a grown woman, how men or women pursue each other. It's almost like that. But underage. Always remember, underage. I don't care if that person is 14 years old. I don't care if they're 15 years old. I don't care if they're 16 years old. I don't care if they're 17 years old. They are underage. Stop placing the blame on the age number. Because no matter what, there are certain things that are not supposed to take place. Miss Lady went on to say that at that particular time, she was only 11 years old, and she remembers it clearly. And she says that at this point, she was beginning to become numb to being groomed, to being touched, to being felt on, to being approached. Because it was starting to feel like that's what happens, that's what takes place. She said, and also in that, that's where she also began to learn or have ideas about the prostitution as well, because in that, she realized that men offer you money to do things to you. So let's move forward. The little girl decided to tell her friend, and her friend told her mother about what was happening or what was getting ready to happen. And when her mother came and questioned her about it, because you got to understand that parents are not ready for this. If you can't handle it, the parent that has to deal with this, the parent that has to stand up for you, the parent that has to speak up for you, doesn't know what to do either. So her parent found out about it, she said, and her parent called the management office. And so the management office wanted to set up an emergency meeting. And with this management office setting up an emergency meeting, they all had to go to the management office. This is also where the little girl learned very on that telling somebody was not going to matter. That no matter what, in telling someone, she was going to be looked at as the problem. That she was going to be the one blamed for what was going on. That she was going to be considered fast. That she was going to be considered the problem. So they had this emergency meeting at the building. And the little girl began to explain with knots in her throat and sitting there nervous and jittery and everything and twisting her hands about what was happening and what was going on. But at the same time that this little girl is trying to explain this and she's scared because am I going to get a whooping? And am I going to be in trouble? Am I going to be put on punishment? Am I going to be called a liar? The little girl said. She said, only to be told, only to be made to feel like nothing, only to be told, why would he want to do something like that to you? He has 5 daughters. We've been married for umpteen years. Why would he want to do something like that to you? All I could say when she told me that was wow. Yeah, wow. So when the question is asked, Miss Lady said, as to why she didn't say anything, that was her first time saying something. And that was the last time she said something until she became a full adult woman. The other thing that Miss Lady wanted to let you know is that some people never tell what happened to them. Never. And some people wait until they're 50 years old or older before they speak on it. One of the reasons Miss Lady said that she believes people wait that long is because by then, whoever the person was that caused them harm is now dead, or they finally found their voice and they're able to speak up for themselves on their own. And what somebody thinks about them or how someone feels about them doesn't matter anymore. They found their voice and now they can speak on it. So please stop thinking that it's always the boyfriend. Women are pedophiles as well. And some of y'all know who some of these women are that are sleeping with little boys. But because it's a boy, y'all pat it on the back when it ain't right. Some of these women are vandalizing little girls as well, victimizing them, vandalizing them, doing things to them that they have no business doing to them. I cannot stress enough, Miss Lady said, watch your children. Just like you know when they're not acting right because they're coming down with a cold, they're fussy because they're teething, or whatever the case may be, they're going through a change because their ears hurting, or their grades have dropped. There's something going on, and you need to find out what's going on with your baby. You need to know what's going on with your baby. Miss Lady said. Miss Lady said, I know, I get it, I understand that as an adult, you may not even know what direction to go in. But hear your baby. Listen to your baby. And whatever decisions you decide to make, be okay with those decisions. And no matter what, Miss Lady said, no matter what, God still gets the glory. Miss Lady said. Miss Lady said, I want you to know that I am not a victim. I am an adult survivor of childhood sexual abuse and incest. That's what Miss Lady told me. Miss Lady also went on to tell me that I am an adult survivor of domestic abuse. Miss Lady also went on to tell me that I am also a survivor, living and thriving, of mental illness. She said, yes, I know some people are probably going to hear this story when you tell it to them again, and they're going to say, oh my God, how could one person go through so many things? And Miss Lady said, I want you to read the book of Job. I want you to read the book of Job and apply that to life situations. Job had a lot of things that happened to him, and people strayed away from him. Even close people, they started talking about him. They started saying that maybe you did something that God's upset with you. But in the end, look at what God did for Job. Look at how God blessed Job in the end. That's what Miss Lady told me. She said, I've had a lot of Job moments. I've lost a lot of things. She said, sometimes I've even lost myself and didn't know where I was going. I was walking around wandering in the wilderness, Miss Lady said. But God Almighty stepped in and spared me. God saw something in me, Miss Lady said, that I didn't see in myself. God's been preparing me for something, Miss Lady said. Miss Lady said, I tell people about proper preparations prevents poor performance. And God has been properly preparing me to prevent poor performance. She said, I don't have all the Bible scriptures. I don't know all the Bible scriptures. I don't know all the stories in the Bible. I do know some of them. And I do know how they apply to my life. This is what Miss Lady said. She says, so when you get the time, you look at the book of Job. And in the book of Job, a lot of things happen to that one person. Until we get the opportunity to meet again, until we get the opportunity to talk again, Miss Lady said, I love you. And no matter what, God gets the glory. I want to thank you for taking time out to listen to me. And you have a great day.